Welcome back to the TWSN YouTube channel. We're continuing with our countdown to the NFL draft by adding another team to our team-specific 7-round mock draft. This is day 10. So I know that the Eagles have the 10th pick, but it once belonged to the New Orleans Saints, who, picks have been thrown around. So we're going to continue it with the Saints because they were the 10th worst team, and that's kind of the trend we are continuing with and following throughout this process. So let's go ahead and start up the simulator. So the Saints don't come in until pick 29 here at the back end. After this pick's been passed through a bunch of different teams, finally ended up on the Saints. For now, anyway, the Saints have been pretty aggressive in the last few drafts, wanting to move up and do all these things. So let's just look right into it with the Saints here at 29. Good amount of picks here for this. Let's get right into it, man. The defensive line, edge, wide receiver, and running back are their apparent needs. I think edge and defensive line make a lot more sense than the other two. And it gets pretty interesting off the rip. They don't pick too far apart here, only 11 picks apart. So there's a good chance we can see them double dip in these areas. And it's tough immediately, man. I think Brian Brand's low-key kind of fits what they like, but they got a lot of people who already have that build because, shocker, they actually like them. Mazi Smith is really sticking out to me. I think it might be a little early for me personally, but it kind of just makes sense. I feel like Double A here is kind of fun too. Keon White's kind of fun. But let's change it up a little bit. Let's slide Mazi Smith into the first round. I think it's the highest I've ever seen him. Well, personally, that's the highest I've ever mocked him, is more so what I meant. I'm honestly not too sure how I feel about the value there. The player of Mazi Smith has extremely high upside. Obviously, upside's upside for a reason. We don't know if they'll hit that. For the Saints, with the kind of position they're in, it won't surprise me if they wanted to kind of take not necessarily a flyer, but like a smaller risk with an interior pass rusher like that, and a guy that has phenomenal upside. And we're going to continue to stay in the trenches. And let's go Keon White, a phenomenal athlete. I'm surprised they only gave us a B there. Not that it really matters, but I was just curious. Keon White's fantastic. I think he got hyped up a little bit earlier in the draft cycle, and he's kind of fallen back down boards. I don't think he should fall too far. This is exactly the kind of range where I love Keon White. I would consider him in the back end of the first. He's a great player. He does it all. He's a freak athlete as well. Do a lot for you. He can do a lot for you, man. Really interesting here. Start for the Saints. Not necessarily the directions I was anticipating are going, but here we are. Now we're gonna look in the more fun positions as people, like to look at the receivers. It's the wide receivers, the tight ends, the running backs, corners, just a little bit of everything. Running back obviously is a question mark in New Orleans with the whole Alvin Kamara situation. They did bring in Jamal Williams, so there's some assurance there a little bit. So that's gonna knock me off of a running back here at 71 with the options that are there. Now let's look at tight end too. There's some interesting guys. Nobody too crazy, but kind of with what the Saints really need. There's nobody really jumping out at me. I think the first guy that kind of really sticks out to me with kind of what they need is Rashid Rice. I think that I love Chris Olave. He's really good. He can do a lot of things. You can put him in the slot. You can move him outside. They still have Michael Thomas, obviously. Who knows how that situation's ever going to play out. But Rashid Rice is a little bit of a different build than those two. Provides a little bit of different athletic profile than those two. I think he's a good complement to either just Olave or as a third wide receiver with that team as well. I know they got some other fun guys. Rashid Shaheed, I believe is his name, something like that. Was a really fun storyline last year. We'll see if he continues to develop and becomes anything. But if not, they still need another guy in that room. I think Rice is a very good complement to that room. It's currently constructed. So now again, we're gonna come back to running back. Take a little peek. Let's go Kenny McIntosh here in the fourth. I think McIntosh really complements whatever back they're gonna have. Gonna be your RB3 to your RB2. He's an explosive guy that doesn't need a bunch of touches. Um, he can be your pass catcher. If Alvin Kamara is gone, you can get by with um, McIntosh and Jamal Williams. With McIntosh being a few touch a game guy, your explosive guy. Just they need that kind of safety net, but potential like upside in the pairing with Jamal Williams in case who knows what happens with Alvin Kamara. But even if Kamara leaves, McIntosh still can still develop into that elite third down, kind of like a Tony Pollard esque kind of player. You're not going to give him a boatload of touches, but you expect him to be explosive on the touches that he is given. So just adding a little bit more juice to that offense there. And again, at this point, there we can go a lot of directions. I think the Saints are a really well built team. The contracts and everything are a different story, but just from the pure talent and players on the roster, I like their makeup. But let's continue. We are 146 in the fifth round. You know, fifth round here, so you're not gonna be able to get too many high end starters. Maybe some guys will develop into that, but you're not gonna bank on it at this point. There's some interesting. I like Wanya Morris. I like Luke Shoemaker, but they don't necessarily need some of these guys. I think I'm gonna take a look at the tight end room. Um, let's go ahead and give him Zach Kuntz here. I know he's been a little bit of a popular guy throughout the draft process after the combine. I like Juwan Johnson. I really do. But Kuntz is he's a different kind of athlete. He's just a different kind of athlete. And I think, Derek Carr's used his tight ends pretty well in the past. The Saints do two tight end sets a good amount. So just giving you another option. You signed Juwan Johnson to a 2-year deal. Maybe he's a placeholder for Kuntz. But regardless, Kuntz is a very fun player. I can't, nobody can guarantee, success in the league, but he's a player that has a lot of upside and is very fun and can do a lot of different things for you if all things work out for him. Let's go ahead and go back into some of these edge and defensive line options. I think, I'm going to do it. Mike Morris is a defensive line here. He's more of an edge player to me, but you're going to reunite him with Mazi Smith. They're used to playing next to each other. But he is a guy that you can move inside and out, and I think that's why the Saints would covet him there in this draft position. You can stick him inside. I believe he's 280. So that's normal-ish size for a 3-tech, a little smaller. But he can just do a lot. He's a versatile piece on the defensive line. He's been improving each and every year at Michigan, which is something you really like to see. He's a strong run defender with the pass rushing. Like I said, you're seeing those numbers increase each and every year. You get some familiarity already playing alongside Mazi Smith. Can play a lot of different roles on the fronts. Just a fun player, really solid pick here. One of my favorite under the radar edge. I know he's listed at defensive line again, but those are the kind of guys I like that can play a lot of different roles for you. And the quarterback here is a pretty interesting need as well. They don't obviously have Derek Carr. Not much of a future at that position if you're the Saints. Aiden O'Connell's kind of interesting here. Clayton Tune, kind of interesting here. I don't necessarily know if teams drafting backup quarterbacks, you never really know if that's something they want to do or not. But I'm gonna take Kyle Clark. He continues to. I think he's gonna go way earlier than people are expecting. Not necessarily way early, but he's solid, man. He's really good. He doesn't have too many holes in his game. I don't think the upside's crazy, but if you're looking for a slot corner, he's hit. That's exactly who you want in these later rounds. Just it. Now the last pick, there's a couple guys you could go with. In the interior offensive line, Bradford is very athletic. Carvin has played a lot of different positions at Tennessee, and I love to fill that out with the back end of my drafts. He's a guy I'm heavily considering. We can go back and look at a name. Dante Stills is an interesting name here, but we don't necessarily need that either. These QBs, again, you never know if a team's going to like that. Jose Ramirez is phenomenal. He's not even going to be here at this point. He's a 4th rounder to me. But let's just go into the interior offensive line. Let's give him Jerome Carvin for Tennessee. And I like to fill out my last couple picks of drafts with one offensive lineman that can play numerous positions along the line, and that's exactly what he can. This is a really interesting draft for the Saints. This is not the direction I expected to go at all when I was coming into this. But, that's how the draft goes sometimes. You got to think on your feet. Mazi Smith, again, might be a little early for the player, but it's too low for the upside of the player. So it's probably a decent sweet spot for him. Keon White, same thing, man. The upside with these first two picks is through the roof. Obviously, might come back to bite you in the ass a little bit. But upside with these first two picks is through the roof. And then you really kind of fill in holes to kind of help you win now and in the future, really complement the rooms you have. Rice is a great complement to that room. Kenny McIntosh, no matter how that running back room shakes up, he has a role that he can provide. Kuntz, again, a uber athlete. Everybody saw him at the combine. I love this Mike Morris pick to repair him with Mazi Smith, and then again, good slot corner and a very versatile interior offensive lineman that can play a number of positions. Pretty solid draft there for the Saints. That's going to wrap up the team-specific 7-round mock draft for the Saints at day 10. Still plenty of days until the NFL draft, so make sure you follow along on all TWSN social media. Regularly check the TWSN YouTube here so you do not miss your team. Looking forward to seeing you guys next time.